Hello, hello, everyone. My name is Kira. I am your host for our Leading in Love series, and I'm so excited to have you here today. So, we have a really great conversation. This is the start of a whole new series, a whole new quarter. Last quarter, we did Rooted in Wellbeing. So, that was all about how do we focus on our well-being above anything else. And that was three layered. You'll see. I love taking you on a journey. I love taking you through layers of your journey. And the last series was, yes, physical well being in April, mental well being in May, and emotional well being in June. Now, what's really cool is I do surveys and you all fill them out. And it is so helpful because we get to see the tangible results of what actually happens during the sessions that we do, because it's really easy to look at a laptop and hear someone talking and just move on with your life. But there's something really magical to be said for the work that you all do after the sessions. And I really want to highlight that because there are a lot of people who intake information and never do anything with it. And there are you all who choose to show up weekly on Motivational Monday and monthly through our larger series where you are putting in that work. And not only are you listening and not only are you showing up, but you're actually seeing the tangible results. So the physical well-being growth, we saw an 85% growth in our physical well-being in April. Congratulations to you all. I even saw growth too, and I think that's one of the greatest things about bringing guides and new voices into the conversation is that even those of us who prioritize these things in our lives, people have different perspectives, people have different insights, people have different wisdom to share with us. And sometimes it's things that we've never even thought about, or maybe it's a reminder of something that we thought that we knew. And all of a sudden, we get to even be deeper on our journey in that way. So, physical well being was an 85% increase. Oh my goodness, you all are amazing. Mental well-being in May, which I feel like mental well-being was so amazing. I took the most from our conversation, I believe, with Candace about clearing physical clutter in your mind, and that clears away mental clutter in your just in the way that we live our lives. And I think about that on a regular basis, even if it's 2 minutes before I go to bed. It's like, okay, I know I'll wake up even better in the morning. I know I'll feel better. So we had a 95% increase in the month of May in our mental well-being. And then actually June was our lowest increase, which was a 75% increase. And a lot of you were already in a really good place. That's what I saw in the survey. A lot of you already had focus on your emotional well-being. We've been talking about it for almost 9 months in Motivational Monday. And even all of these series that we do, there's always an emotional aspect to it. So it's something that we've been coming to the surface with almost the entire time. So we saw a 75% increase in that. So we are really doing the work. We're really showing up. We're really putting in the care and the energy. And now we're starting our Leading in Love series. So if you don't know the way that our programming works, we have our larger events, which I'm going to change the branding. You'll start seeing some new things coming at next quarter. So I'm already, forward thinking. But these are the deeper dives. These hour-long conversations are where we get to go really deep and bring in a lot of wisdom on the topic. Because one of the things that I hear from you in Motivational Monday, probably every week for the past few weeks, which I love, is these are too short, Kira. You get me started, you get me excited, and then it's done. What do I do with it? And what you do with it is you take it, right? You let it permeate throughout your life. You start listening to podcasts. I might start sharing more resources with you as well so that you feel like you have more to do as the weeks progress. But also that's what this deep dive is for. That's what this exact conversation for is. This is the moment where we get to get really deep. So Motivational Monday is more niche, like subtopics of the main topic. And then this session here is the main topic of the main topic where we get all the juicy wisdom. So we have our Leading in Love series that just started right now, literally right here, right now, this week. We just started it between Motivational Monday and between this Connect event. And this is all about being a pioneer for healthy and thriving relationships in your life. So we have it three layered. Like I said, I love to take you on a journey. Every single thing that we do in what month is it? In July is focused on self-love because truly, and you'll learn through today's session, you cannot have any healthy relationship with anyone else, even if you think you do, if you don't have that self-love and if you don't have that support that you're building internally before you show up for anyone else. Then we have August that's going to be focused on interpersonal relationships. So that's all about friends, family, and lovers. How do you show up in those relationships that are sometimes the most challenging? And I don't know about you, you can drop 111 in the chat if you relate to this. Sometimes I mean it's a dramatic word, but it's true. Sometimes I'm the worst to the people I love the most. And that's something that I'm working through as well, right? Is the realization of, okay, how do I show love to those that I love the most? How can I be more vulnerable? How can I express my truth in a way where it doesn't come out in struggle or in tension? Because it's real. Relating to others is hard. One, it's an essential part of being a human being, but two, it is not necessarily easy. And then in September, we'll be doing professional relationships. So a lot of you have requested that for almost my entire time here with Life Guides. How do we navigate professional relationships? How do we navigate that conflict? What do we do? And we'll be talking about all of that. So, all of our programming for the month focuses on that, whether it's Motivational Monday or our Connect event, you'll be able to be here. Now, we have very small attendance, and I love it, in our mentoring sessions that happen the week after our Connect session. So, this is our Connect session. We have a mentoring session at this same time next week. And the reason why is because that's the session where you really do the work. That's the session where you're going to be able to share your voice, share your face, get vulnerable, put in the work. And it's not for everyone, truly. I'm the type of person, put me on a camera, get me talking to people, I'll get vulnerable, I'll share my truth, but it took me some time to get there, right? For some of you, maybe you've never done that. Maybe it's uncomfortable, or maybe you're like, I just like learning, but I don't really want to put it into work yet. And that's fine. But there are also, and I know this because you've been on the mentoring sessions, there are those of you who are like, you know what? I'm okay with getting a little uncomfortable. I want to put in the work. I don't want to have excuses for why I'm not showing up in the way that I want to, especially when there are resources to get me to where I want to be. So the mentorship session will always have a lower attendance, but it'll always have the largest impact because it's where we get to have that group live moment with you where we're all sharing, we're all reflecting, we're all putting in the work, and it is tangible. We had one person crying at the end of one session. We had another person saying it felt like group therapy, but even better. And trust me, we're not therapists. We're not here to therapize you, but we're here to make this journey a little bit more human. And we're here to help you realize that the things that you're going through aren't personal. A lot of it is just human nature. We have Yvette here. I'm going to give her an intro in just a moment. She's a neuroplastician. And what we're going to learn today, especially with self love and forgiveness, is that a lot of the ways that we talk to ourselves, a lot of the way that we show up for ourselves, sometimes we demonize, and sometimes we're like, I can't believe I do that, or I can't believe I said I wanted to do that and showed up this way, or why did I do that, or why do I struggle with this, or why can't I put in the work? A lot of it is just because that's how your brain works. And once we know how our brain works, we can start to work with our brain even better to support us in the ways that we are wanting to grow. So it's going to be Yvette for today's session, and it'll be me and Yvette next week for the mentorship session. So if you're on this session and you're like, okay, I want to put in some of the work, I really want to show up, next week's session is going to be the one where you get to do that. And it's not going to be easy, but it'll definitely be rewarding and it'll take you on your journey. And Kevin, I love that. Like RuPaul says, if you can't love yourself, how the heck are you going to love someone else? How eloquent. We love it. It's true. So without further ado, we have our very own beautiful Yvette here, and I'm going to give her an intro, and then she's going to give us an intro to today's conversation because who better than the expert herself to tell us what we're diving into? So Evette is wonderful. She cares about how you feel and how you form relationships. As an integrative brain coach, she's passionate about helping professional women from diverse cultures heal from the effects of traumatic or deeply challenging romantic relationships or family dynamics. I relate to that. If you've lost yourself while holding everything together, you're not alone, and it's not the end of your story. Through psychology and a neuroscience based approach, she helps you reconnect with the powerful woman within, rebuilding your confidence, and leading your life from a place of purpose, not pain. No matter where you are in your journey, you deserve to feel whole, strong, and free again. As a neuroscience geek with an MBA in leadership and multiple certifications in applied neuroscience, health, and relationships, she has over 20 years of experience in customer success and 10 plus years in coaching. In her previous role as a chief strategy officer, she's had the honor of collaborating on a patented relationship theory. Look, she's too cool. I can't. That decodes and enriches human connection. What? This approach helps couples overcome challenges that erode connection and reignite their relationships while empowering singles to break free from repetitive patterns, deepen self-awareness, and build foundations for meaningful future relationships. So, with all that being said, Yvette is here to support us. I understand the desire to support women because I feel like we just have a lot of struggle. But if you're a man on this session, we're talking about the brain. We all have the same brain. So, Yvette, can you give us an intro into today's convo and where we're diving into? And for those of you who are here, I'm dropping her profile in the chat. If you're inspired by her and you want to schedule a one-on-one call with her, the link is right there. Do so at your leisure. You will thank yourself over and over for doing such.
Thank you so much, Kira, for that beautiful introduction. Love it. And just for the men on the call, I do work with men as well, but I do primarily work with women, so I don't want to exclude you. But today's session is all about understanding the power of our brain through self-love and forgiveness, and how our brain supports us when we are connected with ourselves, and what happens when we're not. How do you
Oh,
like that?
powerful. Powerful, right?
Yeah.
It's really easy a lot of the times to struggle to receive love from ourselves, especially when we don't know the way that it actually works in our bodies or when we don't know the way that it works in our minds. And like I said in the intro, it's really easy to get frustrated with ourselves. It's incredibly easy to be like, why am I like this? When a lot of the times it's just like the basic neurobiological science of the way that we work. And we can change some of that, but it's true. Sometimes my biggest struggle when it comes to self-love and forgiveness is that I was never taught that. I've never in my foundational growing up, we are a byproduct of our families, right? My grandfather
Mhm.
never apologized to my mother for the things that they struggled with in her upbringing, right? My dad wasn't in the picture, so it's why I'm talking about my mom. My mom never apologized for anything. There was never any forgiveness. There was never her own level of self-forgiveness for herself, but there was never any apology or forgiveness that I could give for the struggles because she didn't have that skill set. She didn't have that tool. And that's something that I lacked in my adulthood and something that I genuinely had to sit down and get really real with myself and be like, okay, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to love myself. I don't know how to forgive myself. And I don't really know how to forgive others. I would hold grudges. I would cut people off. I wouldn't be vulnerable. I would be um, very hard and intense in places where I didn't necessarily need to be, but I didn't know better at all. So, that comes with people pleasing, right? If you're the type of person who I said this in Motivational Monday. Bon Iver has a lyric in one of his songs, and it says, I can handle more than I can handle. And I was like, oh my God, that's basic math, right? I can't handle more than I can handle. That's how I
Mhm.
heard it. My friend was like, no, that's not what it says. And he looked up the lyrics. It says, I can handle more than I can handle. What does that mean? That means that we're overextending ourselves. That means that we're doing way too much. That means that we're people pleasing, that we're shutting down our own needs, and that we operate far beyond our capacity. Why are we stressed? Why are we tired? Why are we unfulfilled? Because we don't know our capacity anymore. And we don't know what actually works for us and what doesn't work for us. And as a default, when we start learning that self-love and forgiveness, we start developing that. And since I had that conversation with my friend, I texted him the other day. I'm like, that conversation has been ringing in my head. And I'm like, where do I handle more than I can handle? Today I woke up, took care of my friend's cat, and my friend's an artist. Look at this cool background I have. I never have this background. Um, Took care of her cat, went back to bed because I'm like, you know what? I can't even handle this right now. I'm going back to bed. I'm tired. And instead of pretending I had more energy to do what I had to do, I'm like, no, I'm good. You know what? there's going to be more day later, and I'm probably going to be more efficient and more effective because I chose to love myself first and take care of myself first before anything else instead of running ragged the entire day. So it's little things that end up being a big shift in our lives. And what happens is all of our other relationships thrive when we love ourselves first. And that's the foundation of why we're having the self-love conversation before anything else, because if you can't pour from your own full cup, then you have nothing to give to anyone else, let alone yourself. So with that, Yvette, I would love for us to start having a conversation about what it looks like to have limiting beliefs and what it looks like on our subconscious levels of what that looks like for us.
Absolutely. You said some really key points, especially when we learn to love ourselves, our other relationships thrive. I remember, growing up and not having that support system as well. And not my parents' fault, right? Like your mom, but I learned how to hate myself instead of love myself. And I literally would say that I hated myself and I didn't care whether I lived or died. And that was a harsh reality. And unfortunately, our brain, whatever we tell ourselves, will take that into consideration and put us in situations to strengthen that belief system. So you can only imagine what my life was like growing up. But let's talk about this on a deeper level. Humans are really not taught how to love themselves. They're not. We're actually taught how to put others first than ourselves, right? And it's considered selfish if we do. But in our home environment, that is where love is first expressed, right? Through our parents. We're taught how to be loved, even if it's very unhealthy, through our grandparents. I mean, think about your upbringing. How was your home life like? Was it healthy? Was it happy? Or was there a lot of toxicity? My mother would tell us that she loved us all, but it was unequal. It was not spread across the same. And not my mother's fault because she experienced that from my grandmother, who experienced that from her own mother, right? Yeah. And there's something that is called epigenetic tagging. These are actual negative experiences that are attached to our DNA. And it can get passed down to the third and fourth generation, even down to the 20th generation. So let's look at history because this is where it really starts, y'all. Honestly, think about women who suffered domestic abuse and sexual violence from the beginning of time, right? We suffered inequality and economic exploitation. Think about Rosie the Riveter at that time, right? So we helped in the war, but then once the war was over, we were told to go back to our domestic place as a female. We had reproductive control and restrictions, social pressure to conform to subservient and domestic roles. But it doesn't end there. Think about the men, what men suffered, through trauma and death, in each war that we had. Then there's pressure to suppress vulnerability and emotions. Men were not taught to, express their emotions. If they cried, it was considered weakness. Now we know today, expressing your emotions is a strength, right? Their job was tied to their self-worth. And then think about the mental health and stigma and the neglect, right? Men felt isolated. We didn't have the kind of psychological or mental support back then that we have today. So if your father or mother, well, let's even take it further. If your great grandmother and great grandfather didn't heal from their own traumatic experiences, that experience got attached to their DNA and got passed down to your grandmother, your grandparents, which got passed down to your parents and got passed down to you. Now, here's the interesting thing about epigenetic tagging. That little gene can express itself in two ways, okay? One, it can never turn itself on, or it will turn itself on. And if it turns itself on you, watch out because you'll have behaviors and experiences that you don't even know where they come from. It's like, why am I doing this? Why am I so different from my, other siblings? This is why. And I can give you an example. Grandmother got raped, didn't heal from that experience. Mom went through two very unsuccessful marriages. Sibling of three women, two went off to have very good marriages. She is 50 years old, still single, never had a boyfriend, and is still a virgin in her 50s and is angry with God. That is the power of epigenetic tagging. Can you imagine? And all of these experiences affect us on a subconscious level. And they're paralyzing. They're very paralyzing. And a lot of times we're not even aware. So they cause us to inherit behaviors that don't serve us like pleaser, right? Because we didn't get the emotional support growing up, that love that we needed. So now we're going to get it from others. So we please for external validation. Or we become controllers because we don't want to experience that pain anymore. So we have to control every aspect of our life, right? Or we become perfectionists. Stickler is another word. Hyperachiever. How many hyperachievers do we have in the room? Never satisfied with what you've accomplished, right? Been there. Yep. Victim. It's everybody else's fault. Or you're just going to avoid altogether. Well, unfortunately, what we believe about ourselves shapes our identity. And our brain's job is to actually put us in situations again to reinforce that identity and our belief system, good or bad, because that's the brain's job. So it's about subconscious awareness, right? So let's talk about the brain a little bit more. The natural default of our brain is to judge ourselves harshly. If not us, we're going to judge others. Oh, check her out. Did you see what she was wearing? Or circumstances. Oh, I didn't do that because, this specific event happened and I wasn't able to, grow or accomplish this situation, this thing. Yeah. So we're going to judge ourselves harshly. I'm not good enough. I don't deserve it, right? We're going to judge others. It is because of them that I wasn't able to get the job or circumstances. Any circumstance, it doesn't matter. But unfortunately, all these stressful experiences, they produce cortisol, right? That's that stress hormone. But what does cortisol do to the body? Causes inflammation. But it doesn't just cause inflammation in the body. Guess what? Cortisol does so much more than that. It actually eats up the neurons in our brain. We need our neurons, right? That's how we form new habits. But if we're constantly stressing out every day in our lives, guess what? Chomp, chomp, chomp. Remember Pac-Man? Chomp, chomp, chomp. The neurons are going to be eaten specifically in the hippocampus region where learning and memory take place. And then if you're constantly stressing out every day, you're going to end up with chronic stress. And that can actually lead to your hippocampus region shrinking in size. That's how much stress has an effect on our body and our brain. Yeah. Crazy, isn't it, Kira? It's
It's
a
wild.
lot to think about.
It's so interesting too because and you guys might be able to see this, right? If you start looking back in your family lines. My dad has a hyperactive thyroid. He's got significantly narcissistic tendencies, always talking about himself, hyperactive in his expression of himself in an unhealthy way. It shows up unhealthy in his physical body. Um, my grandmother had Alzheimer's during World War II. She also was brutally raped by the people in the military who invaded Italy. Did she ever talk about
Mm,
it?
so sorry.
Absolutely not. Did she have a deep desire to not remember it? Absolutely not.
Mm.
Why then is it any surprise that she had Alzheimer's when she intentionally tried to suppress the memory of things in her lives? And this is where we start to get into the conversations of mind, body, and emotional connection. You can't turn one off and expect everything else to work the same. It is all wildly and deeply connected. And it's when you start to see these things that we start to get to make some change. And that's why, my grandfather's not around anymore. And I only have one grandparent now, darn it. But if I had known better before I knew all of these things, I didn't know better. But I wish I knew their stories. One, to just understand the history of my family, but two, to understand and be able to pinpoint maybe things that I don't have awareness of that are inside of me, or even within my mother. I sometimes struggle with her. Now I have a relationship with my dad. I sometimes struggle with him, and I don't always know why. I don't know why they are the way they are. There are a lot of reasons. There's anger that I have inside of me. I don't know where it comes from. I'm not an angry person. But there's anger, and I'm like, there's something deeper, right? And these are the things
Mhm.
too where we can start to get a little bit more inquisitive about our journey, and we can start to get a little bit more inquisitive about our family stories, because genetically all of this stuff is passed down. It's scientifically proven. It is not pseudoscience in any way. It's not just this idea that we take on trauma from our grandparents and our parents. It is like bred and scientifically proven truth at this point.
Mhm.
And that's empowering. That gives us the opportunity to say, cool, I know how everyone before me did it. I want to do it differently. And the places in your life that you are healed, the places in your life where you will show up differently, the places in your life where you consciously see the way that your family does something and you do something differently, those are the places where you get to bypass, and not bypass in a bad way, but you get to start to work through and bypass your own limiting that you were maybe born with that wasn't necessarily yours, and you get to become more empowered in your life. And we had a comment in the chat from Mimi, which is so beautiful. She says, Yvette, my sister and I just talked about this. We are very transparent with our kids, letting them know we are a work in progress and we want to parent differently. It's very humbling to tell this to an 8-year-old, but it's necessary to be intentionally better. And this is giving them permission to start to be inquisitive about themselves too, right? And that just because mom or dad or auntie is this way doesn't mean you have to be. And maybe they can have their own awarenesses, and maybe they can grow a little bit differently, and maybe they can show up in a more fulfilled way because you've given them the permission to ask questions, and you've given them the permission to be curious about why they are the way that they are. I gained my curiosity, and maybe Yvette, same for you. I gained my curiosity basically out of necessity because I just saw him like and as a grown adult, as a grown woman, I'm lacking significantly in basic humaning skills. And that
Mhm.
doesn't work for me. Thank goodness I love to grow, but for a lot of people, that's not the case. And before we dive into the next part of the conversation, Yvette, how do you we've got one question in the chat, and maybe we can drop some resources in afterwards. We have someone asking about online links to learn more specifically about what you just talked about. So if you have any books that you've read or any podcasts or even schools that have been helpful in developing yourself, we would love to hear that. But also when you're working with people who maybe don't who are starting this journey of realizing what's theirs, it is ours, right? But that we're ready to move on from, how do we start taking them through that journey?
Yeah, that's it's I was just thinking about the one gal. I apologize, I don't remember your name, but you said that you're very open, you and your sister are very open with your children. I'll tell you, it really starts there. So awareness is key. And I mean, I remember I only have one child, and so my son, I inherited yelling from my grandmother. My mother was not a yeller, but my grandmother was a yeller. I'm Puerto Rican, we're Latina, so we're always yelling, trying to speak over each other, right? you know. And so I inherited this beautiful trait from my grandmother. And guess what? My son became a yeller. And it was really because we just wanted to be seen, heard, and valued. Because again, my great grandmother, caused my grandmother to feel unworthy and inadequate, which she passed that down to my mother, and my mother passed that down to me. And I unfortunately passed a little bit of that down to my son. But the cool thing is I finally went through a, self-discovery journey in 2019. It wasn't too long ago. It really wasn't. And through that journey, I realized that if I don't change, my son's not going to change. Because when you change, you literally have the power to transform your entire environment. And so as I started to change, my son's name is Giovanni, but I call him Monkey. So he's my monkey. He'll always be my monkey. And so when we would get into an argument or disagreement of any kind, and my voice was calm and his was very elevated, I would just tell him, Monkey, we don't have to talk like that anymore. Like we could really have like a disagreement, using our normal tone, right? And I'll tell you, it's made such a significant difference in our lives because we no longer yell at each other. Like we really respect and value each other's, opinions, and we see each other, and it's just turned into such a beautiful relationship. So yeah, start them young, y'all, but remember, it starts with you first. And one thing that I do want to say is most people are unaware that it's not just your brain that has neurons, but it's also your heart and your gut. And they're all connected. They have a relationship. And so when you're stressing and you have that cortisol running through your veins, of course it's going to get to your brain, right? Because they're all connected. They have a relationship. And so you have to be consciously aware of your emotions and put them in check. We never want to ignore our negative emotions, but we definitely want to put them in check. And one of the books that I can think of right now is the Emotional Intelligence 2.0 is a really good resource because of course we want to have high EQ and not low EQ, because when we have low EQ, we're actually working from the amygdala part of the brain, right? That's the brain, the section that's hiding behind, and we really want to work from the executive brain, which is here. It's looking outward, forward. It says I am in control, right? So hopefully that helps. I'll think of some more resources and then Kira can drop them in an email or something to y'all because, I care about humans so much, and I just want you all to have a loving relationship with yourself because you will see the difference, and it's phenomenal when you do. It's empowering. So
It is.
yeah, so moving on, there is like a computer, believe it or not, there are things that are happening behind the scenes in your brain. And they affect you. They affect your physical health, they affect your mental health. And when we have negative emotions, we're primarily working from survival, and that's the amygdala region of the brain, which is in the limbic system. This part of the brain actually perceives criticism even from ourselves as a threat. Can you believe that? And it's similar to how it would react to external danger. And so if we're stressing out, our brain's going to think that even ourselves are a threat. We are a threat to ourselves.
Can we pause there for a minute?
Yeah, yeah.
We
That's mind
just
blowing, isn't it?
I mean, it's so humbling. And
Yeah.
we just talked about this on Motivational Monday, what it's like to start understanding that you have a negative voice in your head and to not necessarily believe that. But one of the things that we talked about was you can't necessarily fight fire with fire, right? Like you can't get
Mm-mm.
angry and mad at that angry and mad voice within your head. And it takes time and it's not something that you're going to undo immediately, but I've started I've had and it for me it's been an ebb and a flow. There have been significant chunks of my time where my mind is just like world's greatest optimist. And recently, because I'm going through so many changes, because there's just so much happening, my mind is definite. I feel it. I feel my mind more in a survival. And I feel those thoughts for myself being more negative. And instead of being like, I can't believe I've done all of this work and now I'm going backwards. Um, I've been like, okay, cool. That's like the negative thought. What's the positive version of myself? What do I actually want to say to myself that's loving? So, if at the end of the day I realize that I forgot to do something and I'm like, dang, Kira, I can't believe you did that. You should be more responsible. Why would you do that? Which is very much like things I would have heard in my childhood, right?
Mhm.
I tell myself, I'm like, okay, and I take that. I do the polar opposite of it. I'm like, Kira, you are doing your best. You're a woman who has so many responsibilities. The thing that you forgot to do wasn't the most important thing on your list to do today, and you took care of all the important things. And you know what you have a tendency to do? You have a tendency to forget that you're human and to try to show up like you're a robot, but you're doing your best. So instead of having that negative judgment facing that negative thought, I'm able to reparent myself, right? And be like, it's okay. It's fine.
Yep.
And that I wanted to talk about that specifically because that's self-love, right?
Yep.
And we can be our own greatest threats. And I love that you shared that because that's going to be rattling in my head for so long. But I wanted to pause there and just give like tangible insight to what it might look like to start shifting away from that.
Absolutely. And giving yourself grace is the perfect way to weaken the survival brain. Let me just say that those negative thoughts will always be there. They don't go away, but you have the power to weaken them. And it's interesting because I actually have names for the both regions of my brain. Because remember, the amygdala is just there to protect you. It's a safety mechanism. It's there to protect you during real threats and even perceived threats. Okay. And so Cruella is what I call the amygdala brain. And I just tell her, Cruella, I know you're just trying to protect me, homegirl. It's all good. You know, we're going into a safe direction. And then when I'm feeling really empowered and I'm thriving and I'm just in the zone, I just thank my superwoman. That's my executive brain. She's my superwoman, right? Yeah. And so, yeah, it's okay to call your brains different names, to refer to them as different names. Because again, you're having a relationship with yourself. And so, and it kind of takes the pressure off of you, especially when, your survival brain is like really like active. And so it's like, no, Cruella, it's okay. It's all good. And just remember, every time we are working towards change in our self-development growth, listen, every time you take a step up, it's like a step up the ladder, not the ladder, but stairs. I always say new level, new devil. There's going to be new challenges, and you really have to give yourself grace, always. So just think about now we've got the amygdala, the survival brain, it's on fire, right? It's talking to you negatively, it's doing some damage, but it does even more than just that. It actually has the power to shut down the prefrontal cortex. This is where you have emotional regulation, right? It's problem solving. Yeah, that little almond shaped amygdala part of the brain has the power to shut this big part of the brain down. Yeah, so we lose all ability to reason. If you've ever been told stop acting like a child, yep. that's that's you've lost control. That's it. You've lost control. And then we go down that rabbit hole, right? So we have to be really careful with that. But that's not the only thing that happens. Let's talk about the neurochemicals in our brain, right? So if we're going to keep judging ourselves and go through prolonged self-judgment, guess what? Those cortisol levels, that stress hormone, is going to stay elevated. Then we're going to end up with anxiety, fatigue. We're going to have difficulty focusing, and that's just a few things. But then it's going to reduce our oxytocin levels, right? That bonding hormone. So we lose connection, we lose self-compassion, feelings of safety. Yeah. Then dopamine, right? The motivation and reward neurochemical. Yeah. We lose that motivation. So it's going to be harder to stay motivated. We're not going to be able to experience pleasure like we do. So not only are certain regions of the brain shut down, but we lose very important neurochemicals. And unfortunately, we gain more cortisol in the process.
Can I ask you a follow-up question specifically with
Yeah.
dopamine? Because I see this in people. So if we have Okay, so I'm gonna kind of take us through the whole cycle. We have negative self-talk. It's activating our
Hmm.
amygdala. Our amygdala is shutting down our prefrontal cortex. We're no longer able to soothe ourselves, which means now we're at the point where we're producing a significantly less amount of dopamine, which dopamine is the hormone that pushes us to achieve things and get things because we'll get that reward. So is
Yep.
that why, and I want a 222 in the chat for those of you who relate to what I'm about to just say. Is that why we end up sometimes in a state of paralysis in our lives where we want to do things, where we have that like cognitive desire to do things, but we literally lack the physical motivation to get things done? Is that what's happening?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and there are three things that it comes in different forms. So not only do we become couch potatoes, right? We're giving our time away to the couch and Netflixing because we're done. But sometimes we give our money away too. I go shopping. That's my healing. I still have tags in my closet. I know all you women can relate to this. Tags in my closet for clothing that I haven't worn and I bought like 3 years ago. Okay. And the other thing is we emotionally eat. And that happens on both sides, men and women. Yeah. Does a lot of damage. Yeah. Retail therapy. Yep. Exactly. See how you all can relate? But you know what? Believe it or not, there is something that we can do to put a halt to those negative, that emotional moment that we're experiencing, you know. I mean, think about it. We're going through this negative emotion. What if we were to flip the script? Like what would happen if we actually stopped judging ourselves and start loving ourselves instead? Because again, our narrative is not going to change. We can improve it. So instead of saying, I don't belong, I'm not good enough, I feel inferior, I'm not worthy of success. What if we flip the script and start saying, I am worthy of all those things, right? I am good enough. So I'm going to take you guys through the neuroshift framework, and you're more than welcome to write this down. But the moment your brain takes you on this negative path of limiting beliefs, the key here is awareness. It took me about 2 weeks to be aware. And the funny thing, it happened a lot in the shower. It's like, okay, I'm in the shower. I can't write this down. Where is my shower pad so I can take these notes down, right? I actually had a client that bought me one and now sticks on my shower. Can you believe that? I can write notes in my shower. That's so cool. Okay. So the neuroshift framework number one is awareness. We want to go from subconscious automation to conscious awareness because this is what happens in our brain. We are Most people are unaware, but we are driven by our subconscious 95% of the time. We actually only use 5% of our conscious brain. That is mind blowing when you think about it. I mean, we wake up, we naturally brush our teeth, we get dressed, we eat. That's all subconsciously automated. Have you ever been in the car where you're going to the grocery store, for example, and you're in such deep thought, the next thing you know, you're in your parking spot and you're like, how the hell did I get here? Right? How the hell did I get here? Oh my gosh, how did I stop at the green light or stop at the red light? Like I don't even remember doing that. That's because it's getting to the store is already subconsciously programmed in your brain. So the brain doesn't need you to get there. It already knows. This is mind blowing to me. All right. So step one is subconscious awareness, right? Step two is recognizing those negative thoughts. They're a gift and not a curse, right? That's our alarm system, right? That's where we give Cruella some love. It's all right, Cruella. It's all good. Listen, we really have to take a pause and just say, put on that break, right? And just say, hey, you know what? This is a good thing. It's time for me to shift. Now we're going to shift from survival, the amygdala brain, to the executive brain, right? The prefrontal cortex. Okay, I'm aware of this negative thought, and we do this without judgment, you guys, without judgment. It's so important. And the last thing is we reframe that negative thought to support our brain. So if I'm saying I'm not good enough, then I'm going to say, yes, I am good enough. And then I'm going to give my brain an example, right? That evidence that says, oh, remember when I did XYZ? I am good enough. And I made such an incredible impact. Because limiting beliefs is about lies, right? It's about lies. It's stories. It's the stories, the narratives that try to prevent us from succeeding in life, personally or professionally.
Can I stop you there for a moment?
Yeah.
So going back to the paralysis, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, we can start to shift ourselves out of that by this neuroshift framework. But
Mm-hmm.
there's one thing that I feel like might humanize this a little bit more. So, and let me know yes or no if this is correct. The difference between people who do what they say they want to do versus, and this might be an oversimplified version, but the
Mm-hmm.
difference between people who do what they say they want to do and those who are paralyzed is we all have limiting beliefs and we all have the
Mm-hmm.
lies. Those who are moving forward don't take the lies at face value. They realize that they're lies and they move beyond them. Those of us who get paralyzed, we're believing the lies.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Okay.
that is correct.
Okay. Cool. Very
Yep.
helpful.
I'm not good enough. I'll never amount to anything. And you just take those beliefs and you run with it. And again, remember that the brain, because you believe that, the brain is going to support that and put you in situations to strengthen those beliefs. So again, why not flip the script, right? And say, I am good enough. I am worthy and deserving.
Mm,
So let's talk about the next step. So now we've just gone through the neuroshift framework, right? The next step is we want to forgive ourselves. Because again, it's about connection, right? With ourselves. And let me tell you what self-forgiveness does first before we do the little exercise. So I'm going to take you all through an exercise because it's really important. I want to add that this kind of work, there's no overnight success. You will experience some wins, and the wins are very important in your growth, right? But it takes a while for neuroplasticity, for you to unwire these hardwired beliefs and rewire some new beliefs. It can take anywhere from a minimum of 67 days to a year, sometimes up to 3 years. That is how the brain works. And so if you're looking for quick, quick overnight change, it's not going to happen. And that's why a lot of people give up in this process. And I tell them the tools are easy, but the work is challenging. It's hard because you're working with your mind. Your mind plays tricks. Your mind does not like change, first of all. So it's gonna give you some resistance. So I say be like Muhammad Ali and duke it out in the ring with your brain. And the most time that it gives or the time that it gives you the most resistance is usually in week 2 when you're making this change. Week 2. That's why on the second week in January, I think, what is it called? Quitter's Day or something, or Quitter's Week. Look it up. There is such a thing. I was like, what? Yeah. Your brain will give you the most resistance in week 2. And so if you can get past week 3, man, week 2, you're on your way. And do little things, you guys. It's the little things that matter. Inching, like a little inchworm. That's what you need to do. because you will see the difference at the end of the week. Okay, so self forgiveness. When you forgive yourself, it reduces the risk of mental health issues, both depression and anxiety, for example. Yay, right? It's going to boost your self worth, your productivity, and your motivation. Isn't that cool? But it's also going to improve your physical health. Positive mind, longevity. Negative mind, sickness and death. Yeah. But what if we don't practice self care, right? What if we don't practice self forgiveness? A lack of self forgiveness is going to lead to that mental trap of shame, anger, low self esteem, guilt, resentment. And again, those negative emotions is going to cause us to give our time, our money away to, and we're going to emotionally eat, right? Retail therapy, remember that? Couch potato. Yeah. So let's do the self forgiveness exercise. This is really simple, you guys. Okay. I'm going to sit up a little bit. What you're going to do is you're going to put your hand over your heart because this is where we're connected, right? And so when we make a mistake, we're not going to judge ourselves. And yes, there are going to be times where you're going to take 2 steps forward and sometimes 3 steps backward. Understand that this is a natural process of your brain. Okay. Until you've achieved, you know, the goal of rewiring. All right. So all you do is you just tell yourself, boo, whatever you call yourself, boo, I love you, girl. It's okay. I forgive you. You're in a safe place. We don't do those behaviors anymore. And we're growing and headed in the right direction. I love you, and you are worthy and deserving. That's it. Yeah. You can close your eyes and just feel that for a minute, right? Just feel it. Just be in the present, be in that moment. And then you can give yourself a nice hug, right? Yeah, absolutely. This is what I do. This is what I do. Because this is me having a relationship with myself. And I'm telling you, the power of the brain is amazing when you have a relationship with yourself. All right, let's talk about self love. What does it mean to have love for yourself? This is about giving yourself grace every time you make a mistake. And Kira gave us the perfect example of that earlier, right? She talked herself through about what it means to be human. She's only human. She can only do so much in a day. She's very busy and she gives a lot of herself, to humanity, which is beautiful. Yeah. And so guess what? When we love on ourselves, it's going to improve our mental health. We're going to have more self acceptance. And I'm actually going to give you the definition of self acceptance in a little bit, but we also have higher self esteem. Okay, there's that motivation again, more motivation. We're going to have more determination, right? To do things in our lives. Increase self awareness. We want that, right? How about less anxiety and better sleep? Yeah, absolutely. So every morning when you get up, make this a habit. Do this with your kids too. Like let's just set them on, on a pattern of you know, um, growth from the very beginning. And when you teach your kids these things about self-love and forgiveness at a very young age, you start to help them to increase their own emotional intelligence. And so that when they become, when they're in stressful situations, they'll know how to handle it better. And they'll be less judgmental on themselves, especially, kids that are in, it'll be really helpful, especially when kids get to junior high, right? Hormones are flaring, all kinds of things are going on. So this will really support your kids at that time, even more so. And so self-love, when you first wake up, your hair is a hot mess. Maybe you had your makeup on from the night before and you've got mascara and eyeliner all over. Drool, crusty eyes, doesn't matter. This is where you need to love yourself the most, not when you're all dolled up, made up. Come on now. Let's keep it real. All right. So you're going to look in the mirror and you're going to tell yourself, whatever you call yourself, boo, you can say your name, Yvette. I love you very much. You are a beautiful, confident soul, and you are worthy and deserving. Mwah. I give myself a kiss and I high five the mirror. That's it, right? You know why I high five the mirror? Because the mirror high fives you back, right? That's right. I got you, girl. Woo! Right? And for men, you could make it more masculine, right? Dude, damn, you're handsome. I love you, bro. You are worthy and deserving, and I got you, right? High five. Throw yourself a kiss. Yep. It's okay. Yeah. This, let me tell you, self-love and forgiveness is the foundation of your success. And you will see things, the universe works with you when you love and forgive yourself and you have a relationship with yourself, and begin to see doors open up for you. It is just phenomenal how things happen that way. Just does. Because when you're connected with yourself, you're connected with the universe. All right. So let's talk about the neurochemicals of self-love and forgiveness, right? What happens when you do this on a daily? Oxytocin levels go up. You have a connection with yourself. You trust yourself. Reinforces an emotional bond with yourself. How cool is that? Then there's dopamine. You feel a sense of accomplishment, right? Signals the brain that you're on the right path. So it's going to increase motivation. Isn't that beautiful? Yeah. Even mood, serotonin levels go up as well. So it's going to improve your mood. You're going to be happy all the time, right? You're going to be more joyful. You're going to have more gratitude. And guess what? All of those emotions that you're experiencing on a subconscious level, you're going to attract people towards you, not repel. But then what brain regions are activated? Because there's a lot that happens behind the scenes, right? Just like your computer. Don't know what's going on. I know I can turn on my computer, but I don't know what's working in the background. At least I'm not a techie person, so I don't know that stuff. But there's stuff going on. Your prefrontal cortex, it's going to help you make more balanced, self-compassionate decisions. Compassion, you guys. Your anterior cingulate cortex, the ACC, it's going to help you process emotions and let go of self-judgment. Isn't that beautiful? This is what self-love and forgiveness does. And then there's the amygdala. It's not going to have the power that it had before, right? So it's going to help to reduce those self-critical negative emotions that you have. Yeah. And then your default mode network, the DMN, it's going to help you shift, and it's going to help to prevent rumination. And instead, it's going to help you to reflect and promote positive self-awareness. This is the power of your brain on self-love and forgiveness. And when you do that, I'm telling you, you have the power to change your environment because your emotional intelligence goes up, right? You're doing things on a higher level. You're more in control. You're not being controlled now. You're more in control, and you're using the right part of the brain. This is the part that we want to strengthen. This is, I am the executive. I am the CEO of my life, and I am in control. So let's talk about self-acceptance. This for me hit really home because we judge ourselves so harshly. We don't look at the things, we don't focus on the things that we're doing right. And so before I share self-acceptance with you, I want to share one thing. I do this every year. I have a success journal, and I put all my small wins and my big wins in there. And I have this win today that I'm speaking with all of you. Yes, Kira, that is in my success journal. because I'm making an impact. I'm helping you guys to see how your brain works. And it's a beautiful thing that I get to share this with you guys. So it's important to me. This is my life work. And so any opportunity that I have is going to be a win. And so self acceptance. I want you to think about self love and forgiveness as I read this to you. It is the awareness of one's strength and weaknesses, the realistic appraisal of one's talents, capabilities, and general worth, and feelings of satisfaction with oneself despite deficiencies and regardless of past behaviors and choices. Y'all, you need to be kind to yourself because you know what? The world is not always. And so I'm going to leave you with that. And I'm here for you if you want to chat afterwards or set up an appointment. I really want you guys to be successful because you are deserving and you are worthy. Thank you.
Thank you, Yvette. So beautiful. We're just a minute over, but I think we needed it. I think we all needed it. Um, yeah, I know I needed that more than I thought that I knew. So thank you for
Oh,
your
you're
wisdom
welcome.
and your insight. Um, like I said in the beginning, this is where you get to intake the information this session. But next week, we have our live mentoring session with me and Yvette, where you get to do the actual work. We'll have a worksheet, and we'll take you through step by step how to start to place this in your life. And you get to ask us, like, Yvette, I'm going through this. What would you suggest? And your voice and your face get to be seen and heard. And it's where you get to do the work. Again, it's a lower attendance because not everyone's ready for that work. But for those of you who are, the link is in the chat. Please join us. Register for the session. It's at the same time, same day next week. And I'm also going to drop Yvette's profile as well. If you're maybe not as comfortable doing a group session and you're like, I would rather just have one-on-one guidance. I would rather have that support on a deeper level, on a more personal level. Book a call with Evette and she'll be able to support you. And the version of us that you get on these screens are the versions that you get everywhere else as well. So it's a pleasure and a joy, as always, to be on these sessions with you. Next week's Motivational Monday is going to be about the freedom that comes with forgiveness. So, again, diving deeper into all of these layers and giving you these tools to help you just show up even fuller in yourself with love and with trust. So, that's all I have to say. Yvette, do you have any final words before we end this?
That's it. Just remember, even a little bit of work, just the little things that you do to begin the process of self-love and forgiveness, your brain's going to support you.
Mm,
Yeah, it makes a difference. The little changes.
thank you.
So start implementing.
Start implementing. I've said this
Yes.
in the beginning of the year. A lot of people want to go 0 to 100 real quick. If you go 0.03% every day, that's less than a third of a percent every day. By the end of the year, you'll be at over 100% and you'll be an entirely different human. And that's where self-compassion comes in, and that's where self-love and self-forgiveness comes in, even for the moments where we expect way too much of ourselves. Cue me and my challenges. But with all of that being
Yeah.
said, we are going to bring this to an end and we will see you next week for Motivational Monday and then our live mentorship session. Have a beautiful week, everyone, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.